Howdy, boys and girls, and welcome back to week 2 of the Carla and Crappy Show. I am Uncle Crappy. I am in Pittsburgh. You, not you watching, but you down there at the bottom of the screen, you are Carla. You're in Nashville. Carla, how you doing this week?
I'm good. How are you? And I really am in Nashville. I'm on 3rd Avenue in Nashville, right downtown right now. So pardon all the traffic noise.
Nah, don't worry about it. Hi, Mom and Dad.
Hi, Mom and Dad. Yeah. Meet my work conference room. Yeah, I didn't even have time to go home. So
nice. This, of course, is the second week of the season. We recorded approximately 37 preview videos and did a show last week where we made actual game picks. As I recall, I pretty much got hammered on the pick that I pretty much knew I was going to get hammered on when I picked my alma mater, Ohio University, to beat Louisville on the road. Overall, Carla, how did I think I was 2-2 and you were a little better than that? And
I was 3-1 just simply because I picked Louisville. So yeah, we both lost that Vandy game. Man, wasn't that a great start to the season?
That was an excellent game. Good stuff, a lot of good stuff all the way around. I was actually came across a story a couple days ago about the number of 1AA teams that played well against their Division I opponents. I'm not supposed to refer to Division I and 1AA anymore, am I? But anyway, just lots of fun stuff the first week. More fun stuff coming up this week. And actually, we're going to start with what you pretty much have to say is the biggest game on the schedule. That would be the South Carolina Gamecocks visiting the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia is a 3-ish point favorite. Carla, what do you see with that one?
Yeah, that's probably because they're a home team, so that's actually a pretty even spread there.
Pretty much.
Out of the first week, everybody, I don't know if it's what I've been reading via Twitter or whatever, about how nobody was impressed with what South Carolina did against North Carolina, and you have the rebuttal of, well, yeah, but that's the way South Carolina plays football. Mm-hmm. That was a South Carolina game. No, it wasn't impressive, but they won the game. Georgia, on the other hand, played that spectacular game with Clemson. We're talking about good games. That one I watched almost wire to wire. I flipped over to watch a bit of my Pirates that actually got picked up down here. So I flipped over and watched a little baseball for a bit, but otherwise I was glued to my TV on that one. For an opening week game, that was spectacular. At the beginning of this of our epic preview season that we did, like you said, 47, 48, I don't know how many shows we did.
There's a bunch of them.
Something like that. I picked South Carolina as my SEC East champion, and I'm going to stick with that. I still think South Carolina wins this game, even though they weren't impressive, even though Clowney only had 3 tackles, even though Georgia lost a heartbreaker. But I think that's the key in this one. Georgia lost a heartbreaker. Yep. They thought they had that game a couple of times and then lost. And to play 2 big games back to back, even though it's home, I've got to tip the hand a little bit to South Carolina because, yeah, they had to prep for North Carolina, but it's North Carolina. And there were some weather issues in that game, too, which probably led to a little bit of different rhythms. So I'm going to stick with my guns that I went with at the beginning of the season. Of course, we all know how well that went because I was the one that said Oregon State would be in the mix in the Pac-12, and yeah, they went out and lost to Eastern Washington. Yeah.
One of those wonderful stuff I'm not supposed to talk about.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with my guns and think I got one right, maybe, and say go South Carolina.
Okay. We're actually going to pick this one differently, and it's kind of a tough thing. The thing that I took away from watching Georgia and Clemson a week ago, really impressed with Todd Gurley, Georgia's tailback, and I think he is the right kind of guy to give South Carolina's defense some problems. Even the University of Pittsburgh had some success initially running the ball against Florida State on Monday, on Labor Day, and they did that with a very straightforward north-south running game. That's the kind of thing you need to do to negate a quick defense. I think Gurley is tailor-made for this, and I think that may give Georgia a slight edge, along with the fact that they're playing their home opener. It's tough to say you have a must-win situation in the second week of the season, but yeah, this is something that Georgia has to win, and I think they're gonna edge out a victory against the Gamecocks. So there's our first pick that we've split on. We'll see how that one goes.
I like that.
Next, we go to the Big Hole in Ann Arbor, where Notre Dame visits, I hate even saying the word, Michigan, for a game that may or may not be one of the great rivalries in all of college football. Michigan is a 3.5-ish point favorite, kind of similar to Georgia. You figure you get those points just for being the home team. Carla, what do you see there?
I'm kind of surprised that that's how close the line is, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah.
But that's actually surprising. I didn't look up the lines before we did this, and I would have anticipated Michigan being a bigger favorite. Gosh, Brian Kelly knows what he's doing, doesn't he? Like, nobody's talking about Notre Dame. Mm-hmm. After everything they went through in the offseason, nobody's talking. This might be the season that we've talked about Notre Dame the least. Mm-hmm. Even after playing a national title game, and I think that has something to do with it. And so, of course, he goes out and says something about how this isn't a rivalry game and blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's just all a PR tactic, right? Mm-hmm. To get back up in the headlines. You don't do that to Michigan. I mean, I understand what he's trying to do to get people to talk about Notre Dame, but I really think that's going to just completely backfire on him. Notre Dame beat Temple. It scored twice quickly. It was Temple. I would have expected that score to be bigger. Maybe he was scaling back because he wanted to have to score. But there was a quote in one of the articles that said that Notre Dame couldn't put Temple away. Mm-hmm. And that he was asked that, Brian Kelly was asked that after the game. You can't do that with Michigan. If they struggle with Temple, you're going to Michigan Stadium. Yeah, and Michigan did what they were supposed to do against a MAC opponent. Yep. I think Michigan wins this game, and I don't think it's close. I really don't. I think this is one of those things that Michigan's going to go out and make a statement. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I think if we're talking about Michigan Stadium and the fact that this is one of the rare night games that they play up there, lights don't necessarily equal atmosphere. Michigan Stadium is not, in spite of its size, is not known for being especially loud, although the physical changes that they've made to the building recently have helped with that some. That's a thing in Notre Dame's favor. You got to think that Tommy Rees does not equal Everett Golson. So that's something in Michigan's favor, and maybe we saw symptoms of that in Notre Dame's Week 1 game against Temple. You could also point out that Devin Gardner is certainly not Denard Robinson, but here's the thing about that: he doesn't need to be. Brady Hoke's offense is not a read option. It is not a Rich Rod offense, and I do have to give credit to Coach Hoke and his staff of cobbling together a pretty decent hybrid offense last year. This year, the Wolverines are going to look more like what Brady Hoke wants them to look, which is a pro-style offense. It's kind of Michigan football that we are accustomed to seeing, and I'm sure the kind of football that will make all those lousy Michigan fans happy once they get back into it this year. I am like you. I see a pretty handy Michigan win in this one, as if the folks in Ann Arbor didn't need the extra motivation. This whole discussion about whether or not this game is a rivalry is certainly going to give it to them. So a lot of happy people in Ann Arbor.
But you were not happy with something that happened with Michigan, right? It had something maybe to do with your little fantasy team. Yeah.
I'm never doing an auto draft again, because that is how you end up with Tom Brady on your freaking fantasy football team.
Hey, never trust a Manning, and who's my starting quarterback?
Right.
Yeah, Peyton Manning. Auto draft. Next year, Sarah. No. We got to draft for real next time.
I should get in touch with Mighty Hunter, because it didn't seem like he's a Seahawks fan. Didn't seem like he was especially happy with having Kaepernick. I would just trade him straight up right now. I would do that.
Yeah, there you go.
I might have to check.
Go Niners.
Yes. Carla pitched this game as the battle of the journalism schools. I was irritated because Ohio University is not actually involved in this one, but okay, I get it. This is Syracuse at Northwestern. Northwestern is a 16.5 point favorite. What do you see with this one, Carla?
And see, that line surprises me too, because it's so big. I expect this game to be a lot closer than that. But it's interesting because I saw a lot of Syracuse last week because they played my Nittany Lions.
Right.
And it's kind of the Syracuse kind of has an offense that still is it's kind of seeking an identity.
Mm-hmm.
There were times last week that there were flashes of brilliance. There were times last week that it just didn't look like they knew what they were doing. And part of that is new coach. Part of that is a transfer quarterback in Todd Allen, who had been at Oklahoma for a long time and now is at Syracuse. I mean, they were just totally out of sync with his receivers, especially late in the game in key situations. It was just kind of like they weren't even anywhere near on the same page. Which is why I'm going to stick with Big Ten and go with Northwestern in this game. The other reason is that Northwestern won a pretty impressive game last week against Cal. Yes, I know it's Cal, but it's on the road, West Coast. And they won that game on 2 pick-6 interceptions. Mm-hmm. Defense won that game for them. And if Northwestern is going to rely on its defense and Syracuse's offense is out of sync, do the math, or well, we're journalism majors, so we don't do math well, but yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, although technically I wasn't a journalism major, I was a communications major, so that kind of helps a little bit.
Journalism major mentioned the word math, and I'm just like, huh?
But yeah, at threat of alienating my several friends who went to the Syracuse, the fine Syracuse University School of Journalism, I'm going to go Wildcats in this one.
I agree. And actually, I kind of think this line is decent. The conventional wisdom was that Syracuse's defense played a decent game against Penn State. I suppose I don't know. Maybe it's a little tough to make that judgment when Penn State has a freshman quarterback starting his very first game and actually played really well. Perhaps I am putting too much credence in Northwestern's offense, and granted, their offense was not the killer that I recognized from seasons past when they played at Cal last weekend. But I think in this game at home, Northwestern scores approximately 115 points and beat Syracuse pretty handily. So perhaps we take different paths, but we're arriving at the same conclusion with the Wildcats winning that one. Against that orange guy, whatever they call him. Finally, yes. Finally, this is an interesting game, and I wanted to get into this one a little bit because this involves one of the teams that this involves the team that you, Carla, picked to be your BCS buster. If you look at Texas at Brigham Young, and you think about college football history, you think, oh God, Texas, yeah, why are we even talking about this? Texas recently has not been Texas, and Brigham Young has a really good team, and good enough, in fact, that they are installed as a 7.5-point favorite at home for this game. Carla, what do you see here?
That's again another interesting line. I like that. BYU lost last week, so obviously my hopes of them being a BCS buster pretty much went down the drain in week 1. But there's some interesting points about that game. They lost 19-16. They were at Virginia. Yes, Virginia is not a stellar program, but this was another game that was impacted dramatically by weather. Mm-hmm. They sat out a 2-hour weather delay, and Virginia won that game with essentially nobody still at the stadium. I mean, like, everybody left because it was pouring and it was thundering, and so everybody went home. So it was a really empty stadium, kind of a surreal environment to finish a football game.
It looked like a scrimmage. It looked like a scrimmage.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. And they scored a late touchdown with like 3 minutes left to play in the fourth quarter to win that game. It's also one of those weird games where BYU actually had more first downs, more total yardage, and won the turnover battle 2-1 and lost.
You said you were going to prepare for this week's show.
This is the only game I prepared for because I didn't know anything about that game. So,
okay, good.
Texas, sorry, I didn't prepare for anything else. My notes are really thin, but Texas, on the other hand, and I'm actually working on this right now because we did all those previews and I didn't actually finish posting all those preview videos, and it's still not too late to get a couple of them up. So I'm actually working on a Big 12 preview right now that I hope to have up for Saturday, knock on wood.
So we can make stuff up here, and no one's going to know the difference.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay. I like it. But anyhow, so Texas, I'm working on putting stuff together, and Texas is that team, like you said, nobody knows who they are. They came out last week against lowly New Mexico State. And for a while in that game, it wasn't long, but for a while in that game, they trailed 7-0 in the second quarter. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of the way Texas has been the last several years. I mean, they just kind of do these dumb, mind-blowing, like, why is this happening kind of things. this is another one of those games that if I'm a Texas fan, I'm really nervous about. Yes, it's just BYU. Yes, it doesn't look like they're going to play a major role in the national picture as a whole. But going there to their place, and with the questions, I mean, David Ash, yeah, he threw 4 touchdowns, but he also threw 2 interceptions. Yeah, I think BYU wins this game. I think it's a close game. I definitely think this is going to be a back and forth affair. But I really do think that BYU somehow wins this game.
If I'm a Texas fan, I'm not nervous about this game. I am scared to death. I don't think Texas is a team that it is certainly not at the place where the Texas fans would want it to be, where the program has been historically. Longhorns ain't ready. The Longhorns ain't ready for BYU on the road. BYU is a solid, experienced team, and in spite of their loss last weekend, I thought an excellent pick to be this season's BCS buster. I think that line, the touchdown favorite for BYU is solid, and I think that it could be a 7-point, 10-point win. But BYU, the Cougars are gonna win this game against the Longhorns, and send Texas back to Austin wondering what the hell happened. That is the 4 games we're picking this weekend. Carla, is there anything that you need to plug this week as we did a week ago? I don't need to talk about my underwear this time. I think we got that.
That's good. I'm happy we're not talking about that again. Yeah, the Cover 2 podcast is still going over at Athlon. Okay. My other half, David Fox, who's the senior writer over there, and Braden Gall, they just put out episode 2, and it's a pretty good listen, actually. They've started a couple new segments that are pretty funny. So you give them a listen over at athlonsports.com. And I actually have a question for you. Since we didn't talk about them this week and you're wearing their jersey, yes. Over under on number of points that Ohio State scores this week.
The offense was really kind of the coaches slowed down the offense a little bit, actually because of the heat on Saturday. But boy, if you watched the first quarter, I think you got a sense of what Ohio State's offense could be. I think Ohio State's a 28-point favorite against San Diego State, and Coach Meyer said today, don't worry about the fact that San Diego State had a horrible loss in Week 1. We're going to see a better team, and it's probably true. I expect a much more solid performance and a much more consistent performance, particularly from the offense. The defense will get a boost also with Bradley Roby coming back and taking his spot at one of the corners. I think 28 points is a decent spread, and I'd actually look for more.
I would tend to agree with that one. If David posted on Twitter earlier today, something about the fact that San Diego State ran like 99 plays and still lost as bad as they did. Good luck in Columbus. I mean, this is going to be a bloodbath. You're going to have fun with this one.
I hope so. And I also hope it's not 8,000 degrees in Ohio Stadium on Saturday. But I think we're going to get that break. Guys, that's it. Enjoy Week 2 as much as we will, and we will be back with you next week to take you through another week of ill-advised college football picks here on the Carla and Crappy Show. Carla, have a great week.
Yep, you too. Hi, Mom and Dad.
Hi, Mom and Dad. We'll see you guys again soon.